Welcome to Sci-Fi Galactic Tales, your portal to thrilling adventures across the cosmos. Dive into stories of alien battles, futuristic worlds, and humanity's fight for survival. Don't subscribe now. Listen to the complete story first, and if you love it, subscribe, share with friends, and hit the notification bell icon to get alerts for our latest tales. The stars whispered secrets, but no one was listening. In the year 2050, humanity had spread far and wide across the galaxy. Cities glittered on distant moons, and ships mined asteroids for precious metals. Yet for all our progress, we were still newcomers in the vastness of space. That changed the day we heard the signal. Dr. Elara Voss was the first to notice it. She was a brilliant astrophysicist, though she preferred the company of her instruments to people. Her lab was a small, cluttered room on the SS Odyssey, a ship that had seen better days. Elara spent most of her time scanning the Andromeda Expanse, a lonely part of space where stars burned out quickly and black holes lurked in the shadows. It was a place most people avoided, but Elara loved it. She believed the universe's greatest secrets were hidden in its darkest corners. One evening, as the ship drifted silently through the void, Elara's instruments picked up something unusual. At first, she thought it was a glitch, a random blip in the data. But as she adjusted the sensors, the signal grew stronger. It was a rhythmic pulse, steady and deliberate, like a heartbeat echoing across the stars. Her hands trembled as she analyzed the data. This wasn't random noise or a natural phenomenon. It was artificial. Someone or something was out there. "Captain," Elara called, her voice shaking with excitement. "You need to see this." Captain Jackson Reed, a rugged man with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue, entered the lab. He had spent most of his life exploring the galaxy, but he had never seen Elara look so animated. "What is it, Doc? Another space rock playing tricks on your sensors?" "No," Elara replied, her eyes gleaming. "This is different. It's a signal, a real one, and it's coming from the Andromeda Expanse." Jackson leaned over a console, studying the data. He wasn't a scientist, but even he could see the pattern in the signal. It was too precise to be natural. "You're sure about this?" he asked, his voice low. "Positive," Elara said. "This isn't just noise. It's a message, and it's meant for us." The crew of the SS Odyssey gathered in the lab, their faces lit by the glow of the console. Zara Cade, the ship's engineer, was the first to speak. "If this is real, it could change everything. We're talking about first contact here." Taro Run, the ship's medic, crossed his arms. "Or it could be a trap. We don't know what's out there." Jackson rubbed his chin, deep in thought. "Either way, we can't ignore it. If this is a message, we need to find out who sent it and why." The crew agreed. The Odyssey would follow the signal to its source. As the ship changed course, Elara couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. The stars had always been silent, but now they were speaking, and for the first time in history, humanity was listening. The signal grew stronger as they approached the Andromeda Expanse. The crew worked tirelessly, preparing for whatever lay ahead. Zara upgraded the ship's systems, while Taro stocked the medical bay with supplies. Elara spent every waking moment analyzing the signal, trying to decipher its meaning. But as they drew closer, Jackson felt a growing sense of unease. "Something about this doesn't feel right," he muttered to himself. "Why would someone send a signal out here, in the middle of nowhere?" His question would soon be answered. The stars held secrets, and the Odyssey was about to uncover one of the biggest. The SS Odyssey wasn't the most advanced ship in the fleet, but it had heart. Its crew was a mix of misfits and geniuses, each with their own reasons for venturing into the unknown. They were an unlikely team, but together they had faced countless challenges and come out stronger every time. Captain Jackson Reed was the backbone of the crew. A seasoned explorer with a sharp mind and a quick temper, he had spent most of his life navigating the galaxy. Jackson wasn't one for rules or authority. which often put him at odds with the higher-ups in the fleet. But his crew trusted him implicitly. He had a knack for getting them out of tight spots, even when the odds were against them. Dr. Elara Voss was the ship's astrophysicist and the one who had discovered the mysterious signal. She was quiet and reserved, often lost in her thoughts or buried in her work. Elara had joined the Odyssey to escape her past, though she rarely spoke about it. Her passion for discovery was unmatched, and she had a way of seeing patterns and connections that others missed. The signal had reignited something in her, a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Zara Cade, the ship's engineer, was the complete opposite of Elara. Loud, confident, and always ready with a sarcastic remark, Zara was the life of the ship. She had a natural talent for fixing things, whether it was a malfunctioning engine or a broken coffee machine. Zara had grown up on a mining colony, where she learned to tinker with machines out of necessity. Her skills had saved the crew more times than they could count, and she took pride in keeping the Odyssey running, no matter how old or battered it became. Taro Run, the ship's medic, was the calm in the storm. A former soldier, Taro had seen his share of battles and had the scars to prove it. He had left the military after a mission gone wrong, vowing to never pick up a weapon again. Instead, he dedicated himself to healing others. Taro was the one the crew turned to when things got tough. His steady presence and reassuring smile had a way of putting everyone at ease, even in the most dire situations. Together, they were a family, a strange, dysfunctional family, but a family nonetheless. They had shared countless meals in the ship's cramped mess hall, played endless rounds of cards in the rec room, and celebrated each other's victories, no matter how small. When Elara first shared the signal with the crew, they had all reacted differently. Zara was immediately excited, her mind racing with possibilities. "This could be it," she said, her eyes sparkling. "First contact. Can you imagine?" Taro, ever the cautious one, raised an eyebrow. "Or it could be a trap. We don't know what's out there." Jackson had listened quietly, his arms crossed. "Either way, we can't ignore it. If this is a message, we need to find out who sent it and why." Elara nodded, her heart pounding with anticipation. She had spent her life searching for answers, and now, the universe was finally speaking back. As the Odyssey set course for the source of the signal, the crew prepared for the journey ahead. Zara worked tirelessly to upgrade the ship's systems, while Taro stocked the medical bay with supplies. Elara spent every waking moment analyzing the signal, trying to decipher its meaning. Jackson, meanwhile, couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. "Something about this doesn't feel right," he muttered to himself. "Why would someone send a signal out here, in the middle of nowhere?" His question would soon be answered. The stars held secrets, and the Odyssey was about to uncover one of the biggest. The SS Odyssey hurtled through the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming steadily as it carried its crew toward the source of the mysterious signal. The journey was long, and the ship's corridors were filled with a mix of excitement and tension. Each member of the crew had their own role to play, and they worked tirelessly to prepare for whatever lay ahead. Zara Cade was in her element, tinkering with the ship's systems to ensure they were running at peak performance. The Odyssey was an old ship, and it had its fair share of quirks, but Zara knew every bolt and wire like the back of her hand. She had spent the last few days upgrading the engines and reinforcing the hull, just in case they ran into trouble. "This old girl's seen better days," she muttered to herself as she tightened a loose panel, "but she's still got some fight left in her." Taro Run, the ship's medic, was busy in the medical bay, organizing supplies and preparing for any emergencies. He had learned the hard way that space travel was unpredictable, and he wasn't about to let the crew down. Taro double-checked every bandage, every vial of medicine, and every piece of equipment. "Better to be over-prepared than under-prepared," he said to no one in particular, his voice calm and steady. Dr. Elara Voss spent most of her time in the lab, analyzing the signal and trying to decipher its meaning. The rhythmic pulse had become almost like a heartbeat to her, a constant reminder of the mystery they were chasing. She ran countless simulations and cross-referenced the data with every known star system in the galaxy, but the signal's origin remained a mystery. "It's like nothing I've ever seen before," she murmured, her eyes glued to the screen. "Whoever sent this, they're advanced. Far more advanced than us." Captain Jackson Reed, meanwhile, was on the bridge, staring out at the endless sea of stars. He had always loved the view from the ship's windows, the way the stars seemed to stretch on forever, full of endless possibilities. But this time, the view felt different. There was a heaviness in the air, a sense of foreboding that he couldn't shake. "Something about this doesn't feel right," he muttered to himself. "Why would someone send a signal out here, in the middle of nowhere?" The crew had been traveling for weeks, and the journey was starting to take its toll. The days blurred together, and the ship's small living quarters felt even more cramped than usual. But despite the challenges, the crew remained focused. They had a mission, and they were determined to see it through. One evening, as the ship approached the edge of the Andromeda Expanse, Elara called everyone to the lab. "I've found something," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "The signal, it's coming from a small, rocky planet. It's not on any of our maps, but it's definitely there." The crew gathered around the console, their eyes fixed on the holographic image of the planet. It was a desolate place, with a surface scarred by ancient craters and jagged mountains. But there was something else, something that made the crew's hearts race. "Look at this," Elara said, zooming in on a specific area. "These structures, they're not natural. Someone built them." The room fell silent as the crew processed what they were seeing. The structures were massive, towering over the landscape like the bones of a long-dead giant. They were made of a strange black stone that seemed to absorb the light around them. "This changes everything," Jackson said, his voice low. "If there's a civilization out here, one that's been hidden all this time, we need to find out who they are and why they've been calling us." The crew nodded in agreement. The Odyssey changed course, heading straight for the mysterious planet. As the ship descended through the planet's thin atmosphere, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The SS Odyssey descended through the thin, hazy atmosphere of the mysterious planet, its engines roaring as it approached the surface. The crew watched in silence as the landscape came into view, a barren, rocky world scarred by ancient craters and jagged mountains. The sky was a dull gray, and the air was thick with dust. It was a desolate place, but the crew's attention was drawn to something far more intriguing: the ruins. Towering structures, carved from a strange black stone, rose from the ground like the bones of a long-dead giant. The ruins were massive, their surfaces smooth and polished despite the planet's harsh environment. They seemed to absorb the light around them, giving them an eerie, otherworldly appearance. This shouldn't be here," Elara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "According to our records, this planet has never been inhabited. It's supposed to be completely lifeless." Jackson frowned, his eyes scanning the ruins. "Well, someone was here, and they left behind quite the calling card." The crew suited up and stepped onto the planet's surface, their boots crunching against the rocky ground. The air was thin and the temperature was freezing, but their suits kept them warm and protected. As they approached the ruins, the scale of the structures became even more apparent. The walls were covered in intricate carvings, strange symbols and patterns that seemed to tell a story, though none of the crew could decipher it. "This place is incredible," Zara said, running a gloved hand over one of the carvings. "Whoever built this, they were way ahead of us. Look at the precision of these cuts. We don't even have tools that could do this." Taro nodded, his eyes wide with wonder. "And the stone, it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's not natural. It's almost alive." Elara was already at work, scanning the ruins with her handheld device. "The energy readings are off the charts," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "There's something here, something powerful. It's like the entire structure is humming with energy. The crew moved deeper into the ruins, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The air grew colder, and the silence was unnerving. It felt as though the ruins were watching them, waiting for them to make a wrong move. After what felt like hours, they reached the heart of the structure, a massive chamber with a high, vaulted ceiling. In the center of the room was a circular platform, and on top of it sat an artifact. The artifact was unlike anything the crew had ever seen. It was about the size of a small table, made of the same black stone as the ruins, but it pulsed with a faint blue light. The light matched the rhythm of the signal they had been following, and it seemed to grow brighter as they approached. "This is it," Elara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is what's been calling us." The crew gathered around the artifact, their faces lit by its eerie glow. Elara reached out to touch it, but Jackson grabbed her arm. "Wait," he said, his voice firm. "We don't know what this thing is. It could be dangerous." Elara hesitated, then nodded. "You're right. We need to be careful." But before they could decide what to do next, the ground began to shake. The artifact activated, projecting a holographic image into the air. It was a map of the galaxy, with a single star system highlighted in red. The crew stared at the map, their hearts pounding. "What is this?" Zara asked, her voice filled with wonder. "I think it's a message," Elara replied. "A warning, or maybe an invitation." The artifact's holographic map shimmered in the air, casting an eerie blue glow across the chamber. The crew of the SS Odyssey stood in stunned silence, their eyes fixed on the glowing image. It was a map of the galaxy, vast and detailed, with countless stars and systems marked in intricate patterns. But one star system stood out, a single point highlighted in bright red, pulsing like a heartbeat. Elara was the first to break the silence. This is incredible," she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. "It's a map of the galaxy, but it's not like any map we've ever seen. Look at the level of detail. It's like they've charted every star, every planet." Jackson stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as he studied the map. "And this red star system, what's so special about it? Why is it highlighted?" Elara shook her head. "I don't know, but it's clearly important. Maybe it's the source of the signal. Or maybe it's something else entirely." Zara crossed her arms, her usual confidence replaced by a rare look of unease. "Or maybe it's a trap. We don't know who built this thing or what they want. For all we know, they could be leading us straight into a war zone." Taro, ever the voice of reason, placed a hand on Zara's shoulder. "We don't know enough to jump to conclusions. But one thing's for sure, this isn't random. Whoever built this wanted us to find it, and they wanted us to see this map." The crew fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts. The artifact's light continued to pulse, casting long shadows across the chamber. The air was thick with tension, and the weight of the unknown pressed down on them like a physical force. Finally, Jackson spoke. "We need to figure out what this means. Elara, can you download the map? We need to analyze it further." Elara nodded, already pulling out her handheld device. "I'll try, but the technology here is so advanced. I'm not even sure if our systems can handle it." As Elara worked, the rest of the crew explored the chamber, searching for more clues. The walls were covered in the same strange carvings they had seen earlier, but now they noticed something new, a series of symbols that seemed to repeat in a specific pattern. "These symbols, they look like a language," Taro said, running his fingers over the carvings. "But it's like nothing I've ever seen before." Elara glanced up from her work. "It could be a written language, or maybe it's some kind of code. Either way, it's another piece of the puzzle." Zara, meanwhile, had wandered over to the artifact. She crouched down, studying its base. "Hey guys, I think I found something." The crew gathered around her, their flashlights illuminating the base of the artifact. There, etched into the stone, was a series of small, circular indentations. They were arranged in a specific pattern, almost like a keypad. "What do you think these are?" Zara asked, her voice filled with curiosity. Elara's eyes widened. "They look like input points. Maybe this artifact isn't just a map. Maybe it's a device. Something we can activate." Jackson frowned. "Activate? Are you sure that's a good idea? We don't know what this thing does." Elara hesitated, then nodded. "You're right. But we're not going to find answers by standing around. We need to take a risk." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had come this far, and turning back now wasn't an option. But the thought of activating the artifact was both thrilling and terrifying. Finally, Jackson sighed. "All right, but we do this carefully. Elara, you take the lead. Zara, Taro, be ready for anything." Elara stepped forward, her hands trembling as she reached for the artifact. The crew held their breath as she pressed one of the indentations. Nothing happened. She pressed another, then another, following the pattern she had seen in the carvings. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, with a low hum, the artifact began to glow brighter. The holographic map shifted, zooming in on the red star system. A series of symbols appeared around it, flashing rapidly. "What's it doing?" Zara asked, her voice filled with alarm. I think it's giving us coordinates," Elara replied, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's showing us how to get there." The crew stared at the map, their hearts pounding. The artifact's hum grew louder, filling the chamber with a deep, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the very air. The holographic map shifted again, zooming in closer to the red star system. Strange symbols flashed around it, glowing brighter with each passing second. Elara's hands moved quickly over her handheld device, trying to capture every detail. "This is incredible," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the hum. "The artifact isn't just showing us a map, it's giving us instructions. Coordinates, trajectories, it's like a guide." Jackson stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the hologram. "A guide to what? What's in that star system?" Elara shook her head. "I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's important. The artifact is pointing us there for a reason." Zara crossed her arms, her usual confidence replaced by a look of unease. "Yeah, but what reason? We don't even know who built this thing. For all we know, it could be leading us into a trap." Taro, standing a few steps behind her, nodded in agreement. "Zara's right. We need to be careful. This technology is way beyond anything we've ever seen. We don't know what we're dealing with." Jackson turned to Elara. "Can you translate those symbols? If we're going to follow this map, we need to know what we're getting into." Elara hesitated, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I'll try, but the language is completely alien. It's going to take time." The crew fell silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. The artifact's light continued to pulse, casting long shadows across the chamber. The air was thick with tension, and the hum of the artifact seemed to grow louder, almost like a warning. Finally, Elara looked up from her device. "I think I've got something," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "The symbols, they're not just coordinates. They're a message." "A message?" Jackson asked, his eyes narrowing. "What does it say?" Elara took a deep breath. "It's a warning. It's talking about a threat, something ancient, something powerful. It's coming, and we're not ready." The room fell silent as the crew processed her words. Zara was the first to speak. "A threat? What kind of threat? And why are they warning us?" Elara shook her head. "I don't know. The message is fragmented, like pieces of a puzzle. But one thing is clear. This star system, the one highlighted in red, is connected to the threat. Maybe it's the source, or maybe it's where we can find answers." Jackson clenched his fists, his mind racing. "If this threat is real, we need to warn the fleet. We need to prepare." Taro nodded, his expression grim. "But how do we prepare for something we don't understand? We don't even know what we're up against." Elara looked at the artifact, her eyes filled with determination. "We follow the map. We go to that star system and find out what's there. It's the only way to get answers. Jackson hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to be cautious. But he knew Elara was right. They couldn't ignore this. The stakes were too high. "All right," he said finally. "We'll follow the map. But we do this carefully. Zara, I want you to double-check the ship systems. Taro, make sure the medical bay is fully stocked. Elara, keep working on that message. We need to know as much as we can before we get there." The crew nodded, their faces set with determination. They had come this far, and there was no turning back now. The artifact's hum grew louder, almost like a final warning, as they turned to leave the chamber. The crew of the SS Odyssey stood in the heart of the ancient ruins, the artifact's holographic map glowing brightly before them. The message was clear: a threat was coming, and the Red Star system held the key to understanding it. But the decision they faced was far from easy. Should they return to Earth and warn the fleet, or follow the map into the unknown? Jackson broke the silence, his voice steady but heavy with concern. "We need to make a choice. If this threat is real, we can't afford to waste time. But we also can't rush into this blindly. What do you all think?" Elara was the first to speak, her voice filled with determination. "We have to follow the map. This artifact, this message, it's not just a warning. It's a call to action. Whoever built this wanted us to find it. They wanted us to go to that star system. If we turn back now, we might never get another chance." Zara crossed her arms, her usual confidence replaced by a rare look of doubt. "I get that, but we don't even know what we're walking into. What if it's a trap? What if this whole thing is just a way to lure us into danger?" Taro, standing quietly beside her, nodded. "Zara's right. We need to be careful. But at the same time, we can't ignore this. If there's a threat out there, one that's powerful enough to scare the people who built this place, then we need to know about it. We need to be ready." Jackson sighed, running a hand through his hair. "So what's the plan? Do we split up? Send someone back to warn the fleet while the rest of us follow the map?" Elara shook her head. "We can't split up. The Odyssey is our only way off this planet. If we send someone back, it could take weeks, maybe even months, for them to reach Earth. By then, it might be too late." The crew fell silent, the weight of the decision pressing down on them. The artifact's hum filled the air, a constant reminder of the mystery they were chasing. Finally, Jackson spoke. "All right, we'll follow the map, but we do this together. No one gets left behind." The crew nodded, their faces set with determination. They had come this far, and there was no turning back now. The artifact's light dimmed as they turned to leave the chamber, the holographic map disappearing into the darkness. Back on the Odyssey, the crew prepared for the next leg of their journey. Zara worked tirelessly to upgrade the ship's systems, while Taro stocked the medical bay with supplies. Elara spent every waking moment analyzing the artifact's message, trying to decipher its meaning. Jackson, meanwhile, couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. As the ship lifted off from the planet's surface, he stared out at the ruins, now shrinking in the distance. "What are we getting ourselves into?" he muttered to himself. The Odyssey set course for the Red Star system, its engines humming steadily as it carried its crew into the unknown. The journey would be long, and the challenges ahead were daunting. But the crew was ready. They had faced the unknown before, and they would do it again. As the ship hurtled through the stars, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. The stars had whispered secrets, and now, at last, humanity was listening. If you enjoyed The Last City on Earth and want to read more thrilling sci-fi adventures, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Dive into epic battles, explore distant galaxies, and join brave heroes as they fight for survival against impossible odds. Don't miss out on the next chapter of humanity's struggle. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and become part of the journey. Together, we'll keep the last light burning. Subscribe now and let the adventure continue.